Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Wednesday, May 15th, Major League Baseball. You can see Monday's recap there on screen. Kind of mentioned this in the super brief episode we had for Tuesday. Did get the play of the day, which has been absolutely on fire. More on that in a minute. And our first 5 free pick over on Twitter. But of the 5 losses in the parlay that lost, all 6 by 1 run. Again, that's the sort of variance that's going to happen. We're going to have the flip of that, where we go 6-1 in the 1-run games, and that'll be a lot of fun. The good news is in the non-1-run games went 3-0. So again, things are looking really good. I'm very pleased with where they are. Here so far, you can see that again here with the model, as the full game, which started off the season just really struggling, continues to get closer and closer to positivity. And that's, again, just all the top model plays, not necessarily recommending all of those. And the first 5, everything looks great on the first 5. So again, if you're interested in those first 5 picks that just continue to wreck shop, both the sides and totals now at a 4% ROI, and you can see it's a very large sample size. All of that is over on the Dub Club. Again, the A grade designation are the B grades that I approve of. B grade is the top grade that we're letting the model give. But if you're not there with us yet, join us on Dub Club, Discord chat, more picks, all the A grades that play of the day, which is rocking and rolling, all these game predictions summarized in 2 forms, one in the table, one more in paragraph form, more information, details, projection. And because the play of the day is doing so well, we're offering up promo code HEATER30 to get 30% off of the Honor Roll monthly package. That is good for about 24 hours. It's going to go through Wednesday, so don't delay. If you've been thinking about signing up, 30% off your first month here on Dub Club. It's the first link in the revamped show description, and HEATER30 is that promo code that'll get you 30% off your first month of the monthly Honor Roll package. Take advantage of how things are looking so good right now and sign up today. Some quick reminders, though, before we get started. Pickswiththeprofessor.com/new will give you some information about the model, the community rules around here. Weather is subject to change. We'll talk about what changes might matter, which ones won't. We are projecting an average game. What that means is that we give probabilities. The books think about this in terms of probabilities. The best sports bettors in the world think about it in terms of probabilities, and that's how we want to think about them as well. What that means is a 55% winner is going to win 11 times and lose 9 times out of every 20, which means we're going to win some, we're going to lose some. And that's why anything is a good bet at the right price, because as long as the price is large enough such that you win more than you lose in the long run on it, that's what makes for a good bet. So we're going to identify what those price thresholds are. Again, that's the B grade threshold for the model. And again, if I like it as well, that's what bumps it to an A grade. But as always, take what you like and leave the rest. We will give you 1 A grade this show, but a ton of other A grades and great information for you to kind of figure out what the A grades should be and what you like as well here. But never want you to bet anything you aren't comfortable with yourself. So if I don't talk you into it, then that's okay. You can pass on that game. No hard feelings. But if you could like the show, lastly but not least, we would like that. Starting off here, a bunch of games throughout the day here on Wednesday, starting us off at 12:35 p.m. Eastern. Blue Jays and the Orioles. Yusei Kikuchi against Cole Irvin, a pair of lefties. Kikuchi, every time we talk about him in 8 starts, he just continues to look fantastic this season. It's a little bit of a surprise given his projections coming into the season, but his grade keeps getting better and better. He looks better and better. And it's the same question we've been talking about a lot. How much do we react to this season versus using previous season's data? The model's trying to do a good mix of both, saying that if we only look at previous season's data, we might be missing something. But if we're only looking at current season's data, we might be overreacting. If you want to overreact to what he's done this season, that's not the craziest thing because he's looked good. It's just that historically we've seen a lot of pitchers have 8 good starts and then fall apart. So we're trying to kind of find that middle ground of not underreacting and not overreacting. But so far, the underlying metrics back up his ERA. His xFIP's in the low 3s, his FIP's in the mid 2s. He has been one of the best starting pitchers so far in baseball this year. It's been quite a story for him at this age of his career here. to pitch so well. And kind of a similar story for Cole Irvin. Looks really good. 2.90 ERA, FIP in the low threes, xFIP a little bit higher than that, kind of trailing Kikuchi, but both of these lefties have done really well this year. And you have no problem backing either one of them. The model does like the Orioles bullpen a little bit better, likes their offense a little bit better. Of course, of note, the Blue Jays are still a very right-handed heavy team. That means they get a boost facing a lefty. The Orioles are a very left-handed heavy team, means they get a ding facing a lefty. So specifically for the first several innings, the offensive matchup on this is actually going to favor the Blue Jays because it's lefty on lefty, and that's going to make it a little bit tougher for the Orioles offense to get going, a little bit easier for the Blue Jays offense to get going. So keep that in mind. Of course, all that's built into the model here, especially for the first five. It tends to fade as the later innings happen, and the model knows all about that. Last but not least, before we get to the model projections, the weather, it's going to be a pitcher-friendly day for sure. Wind blowing in at 10 to 15 miles an hour. Even if that wind shifts a little bit, it'll be around 60 degrees. It'll be a cooler than average day in what's become a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark. The question about this one that I have is there does seem to be a lot of rain in the area, so I have no idea exactly what that rain will look like. I am not a meteorologist. I just trust other smart people who know that sort of thing. And so we'll have a better idea in the morning, but the rain in the area could force this to be a little bit of a messy game, could force this to be, a night game. They could just postpone it and say, we don't want to mess with this. Let's get to our new destination. There's a lot of things happening. And in fact, I'm recording this Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday night's game looks like it might be in a little bit of trouble as well. Very TBD on if that's even going to get in. So a lot happening here on the weather. But if it does happen, you can see the projections there on screen. The model would like the under. I'm not touching a total on this until we know more about the weather, specifically what time the game's going to be played and what the conditions will look like. If a storm's coming through and then the sun comes out and the wind shifts be blowing out, things are going to look very different than if it's like gray and drizzly, but they're playing through it. So there's just a lot happening with the weather. So not touching the total until we know more about the weather. With regards to the side, we're in pretty lockstep with the market here. We've got the Orioles winning 53% of the time. The market says 54% of the time. So we're maybe slightly higher than the market in the Blue Jays, but probably not enough to give it a strong edge. I would kind of think, given the lefty-lefty situation, Blue Jays first five might be a good look. That market's not even out yet. We'll see in the morning if that becomes a play. Again, we'll see what's even happening with Tuesday night's game weather-wise, so just a lot to be seen on this one. But again, all the first five information, what the probability of the Blue Jays win the first five, what that price should be, et cetera, all of that is available on Dub Club if you're looking for more information, become a more informed sports bettor. Pirates and the Brewers, 1:10 p.m. Eastern, a pair of 1 p.m. games here on our Wednesday, low 60s. Projecting the roof to be closed in Milwaukee. Another pair of lefties, Martin Perez and Robert Gasser. Gasser, a prospect for the Brewers. Pretty dang good in his first start. 6 innings, no earned runs, FIP in the low twos, xFIP a tiny bit higher, but so far so good for him. We don't want to overreact to one start, but a very promising beginning here for him. And again, if he continues to do that, the grade's just going to get better and better. Martin Perez, he's had a pretty solid season. He's been a guy who's been very back and forth, up and down, all over the map here, even going back to his Rangers days. But so far in his 45 innings, he's been pretty solid. 3.60 ERA, FIP a little bit better than that, xFIP a little bit higher. Projects still slightly below league average, but if he continues to pitch like this, he probably has pitched more like a 97 than a 103. It's just we can't ignore the previous data on him as we project forward. So it's been a solid season for Martin Perez. I'm not sure I fully believe it, but he's respectable if nothing else. And so far, Gasser looks respectable too. A pair of respectable lefties against a pair of offenses that really can disappear. Brewers, of course, do have the advantage offensively, bullpen-wise, at least in the current state, who's available. The model's not really a fan of either one of these bullpen, but unfortunately for us, that puts us pretty in line with the market. We've got the Brewers winning 55% of the time. The market says 56%. It's a real easy situation for me to say pass right here. There doesn't seem to be any edge, at least right now. We'll see where numbers go in the morning. We'll see if there's a first five opportunity later on, but at least for now, a game that seems to be priced fairly well, at least off the bat. The other 1 o'clock game, Marlins and the Tigers, low 70s. Wind will be blowing out to right field, about 10 to 15 miles an hour. I'm going to want to check back on the weather on this one as we get closer, just to confirm it's still blowing out rather than across. But it should still be a warm enough day game. The ball carries a little bit better than at night. In general, this should play a little bit friendly to the hitters here, which, of course, both of these offenses need the help. Both the pitchers, unfortunately, need the help as well. Trevor Rogers, 6.57 ERA. He's not that bad, but he's still not very good. FIP and xFIP both in the fours. That's where he projects a very below average pitcher. And Casey Mize, while he's looked good this season, has a long history of being a below-average pitcher. So the model's not taking too much stock so far in his results. They've been good this year. 359 FIP, 358 ERA, 398 xFIP. So far he's pitched well, but we're not overreacting too much. If he continues to pitch like this, sure, but at this point, I'm not sure I'm buying this as the real Casey Mize. Of course, he should have success against the Marlins offense because everyone should have success against the Marlins offense. But we are drastically different than the market on this one, in both the side and the total. And the key difference is Casey Mize. I think the market is viewing him a little bit higher than the model is. That's why we've got a projected total about a good over a half run higher than the market, and that's why we're 6% higher on the Marlins in the market. What I will say is because both of these are linked to Casey Mize and our perception of him not being as good as the market is thinking he is, I definitely wouldn't play both the Marlins and the over on this game. I'd probably only play one because you're putting your eggs really in the same basket of Casey Mize isn't that good, and while this Marlins offense isn't that good, they are still major league hitters. They do still score runs. We've seen it here recently. Like, they can still put up some runs. Whether you're looking more Marlins on the run line, being the road team, that can make sense. Whether you're looking first five, whether you're playing the over for the full game or the first five, something in there makes sense. It just kind of depends on exactly how much you trust. I think Trevor Rogers, who, again, not as bad as a 6.57 ERA, but not a good pitcher. So a couple of different angles you can look, I think, to profit on that one, depending on how you feel about a couple of different factors. 2:10 p.m. Eastern, the only game at this time slot for us here Wednesday afternoon, the Nats and the White Sox. Low 60s, wind will be blowing across at 10 to 15 miles an hour. So an impactful win if it were a different direction, but at this direction, not going to do too much. Going to play slightly pitcher-friendly. Patrick Corbin, 5.91 ERA, and he's not that bad, but he's also not good. FIP 412, X 426, projects in the upper fours based off of previous season's data. One of the worst pitchers in baseball. Of course, he'll face one of the worst offenses in baseball in the White Sox. The Nats at this point now have the worst rated offense in baseball, as their offense seems to really struggle here. They've performed pretty well this season, but a lot of that's on the strength of that bullpen. That's now a top half bullpen, and a lot of the starting pitching doing really well for them. Corbin is not one of those. Now, he's gotten a lot of run support. I'm not really sure that's going to continue. Of course, just take note, he is getting some wins because of that. I'm not really sure why that would continue. If there's something, maybe he's buying them all bubblegum before the game. I don't know what it might be, but he is getting some runs. I'm not sure that's predictive. And he's going up against a guy in Garrett Crochet, who's a very good pitcher. 4.63 ERA. I mentioned in a couple of previous starts, he had one or two bad ones there, and that ERA got ballooned up, but it'll come down. Sure enough, it's starting to come down. His FIP's 3.33. His xFIP's in the mid-twos. Garrett Crochet is a really good starting pitcher. Don't let that ERA fool you. So the White Sox will have a big edge here at starting pitcher. Other than that, the Nats will have the edge in the bullpen. I don't trust either one of these offenses. We're much higher on the White Sox than the market is. We've been much higher on the Nats for the first couple of games of this series, but that flips around here for this one where we would be on the White Sox. That White Sox bullpen is so bad, though. I'm not running to lock in a price like minus 131 for a couple of reasons. First off, you should probably just pause anytime you're laying minus 131 with the White Sox because, wow, like, we got to really make sure what we're doing. If we're taking the White Sox at big plus odds is one thing, but minus 131 is like, whoa, what are we doing here? The model says it should be minus 164. So it's White Sox or pass, but we want to see the first five market and just see what the price is. Maybe the first five price is something outrageous, and so maybe the full game makes more sense. But let's at least see that market and figure out which one's better before we lock anything in. So not running to lock anything in now. It's White Sox or pass, but we might be more on the first five here than the full game. That way we don't have to worry about the fact that the Nats are going to have an edge once Crochet's out of this game. I'm not really buying into this Patrick Corbin gets runs thing. I don't think they're going to have a lot of success against, again, a pitcher I really trust in Garrett Crochet. And of course, a total that looks really well priced at 8. It's hard to say you can get much better price than that according to the model. Reds and the Diamondbacks going to have the roof closed for this one. A 90-degree afternoon in Arizona. Andrew Abbott and Brandon Pfaadt. Abbott has been really good with regards to his results this year, 3.35 ERA, but the underlying metrics are actually worse than his projection. So the model is telling us that while the results have been there for Abbott, it's been a little bit of smoke and mirrors. And if he continues to pitch this way, he's going to give up some runs. The Diamondbacks offense is pretty solid. They should be able to get a run or two off of him. Brandon Pfaadt's the flip case of that 4.60 ERA, but his underlying metrics are actually really good. So I actually actually think there's a chance that Fought's the better pitcher here. And at least if you look so far this year at the underlying metrics, Fought projects out much better if I just use this year's data. The reason that Abbott projects better overall is using previous season's data. Abbott's been a very respectable pitcher, of course. So the model's saying this is a coin toss. But again, when you look underneath the hood, I would not get too caught up in what Abbott's done with regards to ERA. Remember, we always talked about ERA is not the best metric in the world. It assigns runs only to a pitcher or only to a fielder, when in reality, it's a bunch of things happening there. And so the more advanced metrics kind of tell us that Abbott's been pretty lucky on that ERA, and he might not be the better starting pitcher here. The Diamondbacks bullpen, not great, but still better than the Reds. We saw that on Monday night, where the Diamondbacks bullpen, not great, give up some runs, but of course then still got the walk-off victory. And of course, this Reds offense still is okay. It's not terrible, but it is below league average for sure. We've got the Diamondbacks winning 59% of the time. The market says 57% of the time. So we say it should be minus 145. I don't think playing the Diamondbacks at minus 142 is bad, but at laying odds, it's never like a fun thing to do, especially because baseball can be random. So minus 142 isn't enough value for me to run to. That B grade threshold of minus 130. That's really what I'm holding out for. I don't see it happening, but if it does, for whatever reason, with a bunch of Reds money, I have no problem backing Brandon Pfaadt here and laying a price like minus 130. It's why we built the model to tell us when we should be happy to lay odds. And in this case, I would love to lay a price like minus 130. As always, though, folks, shop around. This is just from one book, the prices that I'm pulling here from what the market says. If you're shopping around from book to book, you might find better prices at different places. And every time you can save a nickel, save a dime, that's more money you win when you win, less money you lose when you lose, and that's going to help your bankroll. So make sure you have multiple outs to bet at. If you don't have an account there yet, BetUS is one that you should have in your portfolio. If you don't have an account there yet, sign up today. The link is in the show description. Get 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
2 games at 4 p.m. Eastern. Rockies and the Padres, the first, low 60s for this one. Wind will be blowing a little bit in, a little bit across. Might want to keep an eye on it. 5 to 10 miles an hour. Probably not going to affect things too much. If the wind's blowing more in, the projected total probably should be closer to 7. If it's across, probably more like 7.5. Not going to be the biggest difference, but at 5 to 10 miles an hour could matter in what's already a pitcher-friendly park. Austin Gomber and Michael King. Gomber's results have been fantastic this year. His underlying metrics are a little bit of a concern. It's very conflated, though, trying to figure out what's what when you have a pitcher pitching in Coors half of his games. His xFIP might be the better metric to look at, 445 for the season. He projects slightly higher than that, but he's having a solid season, so not a bad pitcher, or at least not one of the worst pitchers in baseball, I should say, as he's at least got some potential there, and the results have been there for him so far. Michael King for the Padres, kind of a similar story. The results have been there for him, 3.67 ERA, but a FIP of 5.06 is interesting. What that means is he's been giving up home runs at a slightly higher than expected rate. If his home run rate were to come down, things will get better. That's kind of the promise and the hope with him, that playing half his games in Petco, that home run rate does come down. And if so, his numbers will get maybe even a little bit better than they've gotten so far, or at least if he's been a little bit lucky so far, the luck plus the good luck with things like leaving guys on, and the bad luck with slightly higher home run rate, maybe that balanced out, he can kind of maintain this mid to upper 3 ERA. So we've got King as the better pitcher, but there's kind of an interesting underlying story for both of these guys here. But without getting, if you don't want to get too deep in all that, Michael King's still the better pitcher here for the Padres. Padres better offense for sure. This Rockies offense is terrible. Reliever, so the model is not a fan of either one of them. Unfortunately for us, while we love to fade the Rockies on the road, the model says they win this 32% of the time on the road. The market says 31%. And so it's an easy game to just pass on me at. The Padres are big favorites. They should be big favorites. I'm not laying a price like minus 241, especially in a pitcher-friendly ballpark like this, where there might only be 3 runs scored and one swing of the bat can decide the game. I don't want to lay big odds like that. That said, I'm not touching the Rockies either. Again, there will be a result. Someone will win this game. I don't see a rain on happening here in San Diego. Maybe there's a bee out. We've had some bees here lately. I guess it's bee season. I don't know. So assuming the game gets played, right, someone will win and someone will have made a bet and one ticket or the other will cash. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good investment. And why is that? Because we have to think about this as what if we were playing this game 10 times or 100 times? Because we aren't going to play this game 100 times. We're going to play games like it 100 times. We need to make sure that by putting these types of games in a bucket with other games that are winning a high enough percentage of them. And the price on this one isn't going to be one that's profitable for us, in my opinion. Again, bottom line, Padres are big favorites. They should be big favorites. Not a lot of value there. If anything, I might be looking at the under. The model says 7.2. The market's 7.5, and you can get an under on that. Maybe the first 5 under makes a lot of sense because then you avoid some of these crappy bullpens. So TBD on what sort of under makes more sense there, what sort of value there is. Again, all of that is more explicitly given to you on Dub Club if you're over there with us. Again, that link in the show description. And again, promo code HEATER30 will get you 30% off your first month of the Honor Roll All Access Pass. Royals and the Marlins, last of the afternoon games, 4:10 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, mid to low 60s. Wind will be blowing in at 8 miles an hour. Pretty much for the totality of this game, Alec Marsh and Brian Wu. Marsh has been great so far with regards to his results. The underlying metrics are not quite as shiny, but still very good and trending in the right direction. If he continues to pitch like this, he probably won't maintain the 2.53 ERA, but he will maintain good results and become an above average starting pitcher. I'm a little more concerned about him going forward with his results pitching in the summer in Kaufman. Pitching here in Seattle, his results should be just fine because he's in such a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Brian Wu for the Mariners has made 1 start this year, has made plenty of starts last year, though. Was good in his first start, didn't go very deep, but everything looks good for him. Very average pitcher, pitching in a friendly ballpark pitcher-friendly ballpark should keep his numbers down. Mariners have the edge on offense. That's about the only difference, though. Them at home, they should be favored. Again, another game where we're pretty much in line with the market. We say 57% of the time the Mariners win. The market says 56% of the time. But another game where the under might make some sense here. The implied market total is in the very high 7s. We think it should be in the very high 6s, but one that we're going to want to check the weather on because that wind blowing in from left field, if it shifts to being across, that's going to bring this projected total up. If it dies down, there's a couple of different caveats there. And of note, the ball does carry a little bit better there during the day than it does at night. So it's under or pass. Not sure exactly what number we want to go on the under on right now. Want to look at the first 5 market, want to look at the full game market. We'll have an official strategy for this game again on the morning for everyone on Dub Club. Mets and the Phillies, 6:40 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. Upper 50s for this one. Wind will be blowing a little bit in, a little bit of a cross, 15-ish miles per hour for the totality of this game, but some rain in the area at least to start. The weather on this one's going to really matter because the wind's a little bit more across to start, a little bit more in to finish, but if that rain pushes the start time back and that wind now is shifted more in, that's going to make this a really pitcher-friendly ballpark. So just a couple of things happening here weather-wise that really are going to be worth keeping an eye on. The timing of the rain, if the rain's going to affect things, and the direction of the wind. So keep an eye on there if your total's better. Otherwise, though, a pair of lefties, Jose Quintana and Jose Suarez, at about the opposite ends of the spectrum. Quintana's a 5.44 ERA, FIP right around 5, xFIP a little bit better than that. And so his projection's pretty close in line with his xFIP this season of 4.60, which is below average. Jose Suarez is not as good as that 1.50 ERA. I don't think I'm breaking much news there, but his FIP and xFIP are in the mid-2s. He's been a guy we've touted all for many years now. Y'all have heard me say it this season. I really like this guy. 15th best active starting pitcher in baseball. Again, not quite as good as that ERA, but he's still a dang good pitcher. And so that's the biggest difference in this game. Otherwise, these two teams are fairly similar. The Phillies offensively banged up right now, but not too far behind the Mets. And again, the starting pitcher discrepancy is really all where this one is. The Phillies are big favorites. They should be big favorites. Unfortunately, we say it should be minus 170, and the market has it at minus 170. There might be a tiny bit of value according to the model in the Mets. I'm not taking it because there's no way that I'm taking odds that are anything less than plus 200 if I'm getting Jose Quintana against Ranger Suarez. Doesn't mean the Mets can't win, but the starting pitcher discrepancy just tilts so far in the advantage of the Phillies that I'm really holding out for that B grade threshold of plus 200, which we're about 50 cents away from. So it doesn't look like anything on the full game side. Maybe there's a first 5 edge. We'll see in the morning when that market comes out. Maybe there's a total play to be had here. Again, all of that TBD coming to the morning for everyone with us over on Dub Club. Rays and the Red Sox, mid-60s for this one. Wind blowing, maybe out, maybe across. Probably not going to matter too much because really this is all about the park and how hitter-friendly it is. Taj Bradley and Tanner Houck. Bradley's first start of the season was fantastic. A prospect that was fairly highly heralded Overall, projects a little bit worse than that first start went, but overall still kind of an average pitcher. Tanner Houck has been fantastic this season. 2.24 ERA, FIP aligns right with it. XFIP also in the twos as well. You love backing Tanner Houck any which way you can. It's Red Sox or pass. The only question is, are you looking full game or are you looking first five? It's over pass. Only question is, are you looking full game or are you looking first five? Are you looking team total? There's a lot of ways to play this, but we're higher than the market on the Red Sox. We're higher than the market on the over. And so figuring out exactly how to play that is a little bit of personal preference. But again, I'll give more guided advice to everyone on Dub Club on exactly what I think the best way to play this game is over there. But again, I would not be touching the Rays and I would not be touching the under. Doesn't mean either one can't hit, but the prices on those are just not very good. Cubs and the Braves, 7:20 p.m. Eastern, first pitch, mid-70s to start, around 70 degrees to finish. We're going to be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Going to have a fairly hitter-friendly night in Atlanta. Of course, with these two pitchers, they'll hopefully keep things at bay for their respective teams. Assad has a 1.70 ERA in his 42 innings this season. FIP 316, xFIP in the low fours. His grade of 96 aligns much closer with his current xFIP. I think he's good. I don't think he's as good as that ERA is. And Charlie Morton, on the other hand, having a very strong start to the season, maybe the strongest start he's had in years. 3.14 ERA, FIP and xFIP both in the mid-threes. Two very solid starting pitchers that you would have no qualms backing. The difference between these two teams is that the Cubs offense is average. The Braves offense is good. The Cubs bullpen is very questionable. The Braves bullpen is very good. To me, the question mark with the Cubs is Ben Brown, who I think is a very solid starting pitcher, a very good starting pitcher, and all of a sudden he ends up in the bullpen. How they're going to use him there matters. If they're using him in nonsense games, I think it's a big waste of a guy who's got a great arm and would instantly become one of their better relievers. If they start using him more in high leverage situations, that helps the bullpen out a little bit. But that's really the big difference here, along with, of course, the offense, is the bullpen. Starting pitcher-wise is kind of a wash. No line on this one as of now, but if it is these two starting pitchers, we have this as 60-40 to the Cubs. We have not confirmed Assad. 60-40 to the Braves. We have not confirmed Assad for the Cubs, and so that's why there is no official line to discuss for this one. Yankees and the Twins, mid-upper 60s for this. Winds blowing in. Stronger to start, dying down as the night goes on. Going to play slightly pitcher-friendly in Minnesota. Marcus Stroman and Pablo Lopez. Stroman is a 3.80 ERA, but his FIP's at 5, his xFIP's in the 4s. He's good, not great. Not quite as good as that ERA. Pablo Lopez, 3.89 ERA. FIP is better than that. xFIP in the upper 2s. One of the better pitchers in baseball, a guy we've long talked about being undervalued, a guy who's made us a lot of money over the years. I love me some Pablo Lopez. Relievers favor Minnesota. Not that the Yankees relievers have been bad. The model just doesn't think they can be quite as good as they've been so far going forward, whereas it does really trust the Twins bullpen. The model likes the Yankees offense better. Of course, so far the Twins offense has been better. So it's an interesting situation here where the model says the Yankees offense is the best, is one of the better ones. The Twins bullpen is one of the better ones. But so far this season, the Twins offense has played pretty well. Yankees bullpen's done pretty well. Again, all of that balance between what's happened so far and what we think will happen going forward based off the fact that we have more data than just this year at our disposal. All of this to say, this should be a fairly 50-50 game according to the market, but we are much higher on the Twins than the market is. 59% of the time we've got the Twins winning this for a price of -144. The market's got it at 51.49, with the Twins only being the slightest of slight favorites. Folks, this is your free A grade play of the day. Anything in the -110s, -120s is fantastic value on the Twins here. I love backing the Twinkies at home. I love backing Pablo Lopez. Nothing against Marcus Stroman. I think he's very solid, but I think he's outmatched by Pablo Lopez. I love the Twins relievers, and this Twins offense is good enough at home to at least kind of play to a draw to the Yankees offense, which means the pitching can take over, and that is the difference in the game, in my opinion. The Twins winning this about 6 out of 10 times makes for a pretty good value, and the market thinks they only win about 5 out of 10 times. So Twins -110, your A grade, free pick of the day here on this here show. Guardians and the Rangers, 8:05 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, Carlos Carrasco and John Gray. We've loved the Guardians, but we do not love Carlos Carrasco. 5.36 ERA, FIP right in line with that. xFIP a little better than that, but he's been bad. The model doesn't like him at all. Jonathan Gray, on the other hand, has been really good in his 8 starts, good underlying metrics. I mean, this is a massive edge to the Rangers at starting pitcher. They lose that in the bullpen. So this is an interesting case where if I'm backing the Rangers, I'm definitely doing it first 5. I want to get out of Dodge with a win. If I'm backing the Guardians, I want the full game price because I want to just weather the storm early on. And of course, that's respective of the price. The first 5 market isn't out yet. So you just want to make sure you're not overpaying for either one. And that's why we have all the tools available to everyone on Dub Club to help us sort through all that stuff. But again, in general, the way I'm looking at this game is if it's Rangers, it's got to be full game. If it's Rangers, it's got to be first 5. If it's Guardians, it's got to be full game. Right now, we might have a little bit of an edge on the Rangers. We've got them winning 61% of the time, whereas the market only has them winning 59% of the time. Not good enough to get to the B grade. And so, again, one where I want to see the first 5 market before locking anything in. Also at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, A's and the Astros. Similar weather as Arlington. Both situations could have the roof open. It's maybe a little bit warm. It could have it closed. Not really sure what either one will do there in Texas, as it's very mild weather. Aaron Brooks for the A's will get the ball. Does not grade out very well for them. Framber Valdez for the Astros does. 29 innings on the season as he's been on the IL for a little bit, but his ERA, FIP, and XFIP all align in the mid to low 3s. One of the stronger starting pitchers in baseball. He looked good last time. When we backed him, I assume he'll have another good start here. The Astros offense is better than the A's offense. The bullpen for the A's grades out top 10. The Astros still grades out top 10 as well. And we talk about the Astros a lot this season. Their bullpen has not been very good so far, but they have been doing a lot better here this last week. And again, past performance is not always the best indicator of success, in that you have to say, what are you looking at in their past performance? And some of you might say, well, runs. Well, runs are a little more complicated than that. It's not quite that straightforward. Walks are pretty straightforward. The Astros bullpen hasn't really been walking people. Home runs are pretty straightforward. They haven't really given up a lot of home runs. Strikeouts are pretty straightforward. They've been getting a lot of strikeouts. So the results have not been there for the Astros bullpen. But when you look at some of the things they have been doing, they've been doing the things that should lead to success. They've done better lately here. The model still trusts the Astros bullpen. I'm still a little bit on the fence on it. There's still a couple of question marks, but this bullpen should be better than it's doing. And of course, anytime you've got a guy like Framber Valdez starting off against the pitcher most people probably haven't heard of, you should be large favorites. The Astros are big favorites. We've got it at minus 236. You can play them at minus 228. So I guess there's a small amount of value. Maybe Astros -1 makes more sense. Maybe you put the Astros in a parlay. I think the Astros should be slightly bigger favorites in this, but we're getting out to the part of the probability spectrum where your edges need to be a lot bigger because there's just a lot of variance of what's going on. So it's Astros or pass. I don't think the A's are worth anything at this point. In this matchup, I think the A's are still a very solid team. I've been liking them all season. But Aaron Brooks versus Framber Valdez you're just going to need an astronomical price, and that's not there. I don't think we're ever going to see it. So, like I said, it's Astros or pass. The only question is maybe how you look at them. Get a couple different options. Total's pretty spot on, so team total probably doesn't make a lot of sense either. Just might have to figure out what the most advantageous way to play the Astros. I wouldn't be playing them very heavy, though, because the price is so steep. But you have to think that they should be maybe bigger favorites than the market realizes, given the massive starting pitcher discrepancy. Cardinals and the Angels, the late games here, 2 of them for us. One, the earlier of the late games at 9:07 p.m. Eastern, about 60 degrees. Going to be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Going to play pretty average, maybe slightly pitcher friendly, given these slightly cooler temps, as it hasn't quite warmed up there yet in Anaheim. Lance Lynn and Griffin Canning. Lynn has got a 3.79 ERA. FIP and XFIP in the low 4s. I think he's okay. I don't think he's as good as that ERA. I think his ERA should come up a little bit. But his underlying metrics are fine. There's nothing bad about it. The model gives him 105 grade. If I just looked at his underlying metrics, I would have said maybe more like a 100, 102. So the model is a little bit harsher on him based off of previous season's data. But the bottom line is he's okay. He's not great. Griffin Canning, similar but slightly worse. 5.75 ERA this season, but the underlying metrics are kind of right around 5 as well. So it's like, a similar story where, I don't think he's terrible necessarily, but I don't think he's very, very good. Edge to Lynn here, the model says by 8 points, where we're using 15 as one standard deviation, so half a standard deviation better. If you look at the ERA, you'd say it's by more than that. I'm not sure it should be by more than that. I think Lynn's better. I'm just not sure by how much. The Cardinals' bullpen is much better. Offensively, the model still thinks their offense is better. It got going a little bit last night here on Monday night. I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon. It's disappeared at times. The Angels' offense has mostly disappeared and has been a real struggle without Trout and Ohtani. I don't know what these offenses really want to do with it. The model says that there might be a little bit of an edge on the Cardinals here, as the price should be minus 124, and you can get minus 115, but we are not into the B grade threshold of minus 111 yet. So it's Cardinals or pass. Full game is definitely the way to go anytime you're fading the Angels because their bullpen is so terrible. If you like the Angels, it's got to be first five or pass because I have no faith in their bullpen whatsoever. The total market's pretty lined up, but I think the degree to which you like the Cardinals just depends on the degree to which you like Lance Lynn. Again, he's the better pitcher. Is he better by enough on the road with a questionable Cardinals offense that you like laying minus 115? The model's telling us to wait for minus 110. That's just what it's saying. Maybe minus 115 isn't the craziest play. It's that or pass, at least in this game for me. Then wrapping us up, Dodgers and Giants. Ryan Yarbrough against Logan Webb. Obviously, Logan Webb, one of the stronger starting pitchers in baseball. Underlying metrics for him are fantastic. 3.38 ERA, but the FIP and the XFIP right around 3. He's historically done very well, especially at home. We have no locked-in starting pitcher for the Dodgers. If they do go with a bullpen game like this, we probably won't hear until mid-afternoon on Wednesday exactly who's starting. But I'm assuming that Yarbrough is going to be the bulk guy, the guy who comes in and throws 3 or 4 innings. He hasn't started yet this season, but he has stretched out and gone longer before. And so treating him as a starting pitcher, he does have a 2.56 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it's probably been a little bit of luck. He's not that good. I mean, this is a massive edge at starting pitcher to the Giants, but it's obviously a massive edge to the Dodgers on offense, especially, again, the Dodgers are a little bit left-handed heavy. That's maybe where they get a little bit weaker facing a righty. They're in great shape for this one. Again, as I mentioned before, the model's a little bit concerned with the Dodgers bullpen losing Evan Phillips, but otherwise, all Dodgers on offense, all Giants on the pitching. Of course, it's Logan Webb at home. We've got the Giants favored, winning this 57% of the time. I assume it's going to be Giants or pass. It was Giants or pass on Monday. It's Giants or pass on Tuesday. The Giants on Monday had it, blew it. Their bullpen that's supposed to be better than the Dodgers did worse, and that's going to happen sometimes on one game. I think the aggravating thing for me is that we had Giants and we decided to take them run line plus 1.5. They get to extra innings and lose by 2. That's sometimes I think it's going to happen. We're on the same thing Tuesday. Hasn't happened yet. Hopefully it turns out okay. But the Giants here are not bad, should be able to hang around at home. In a game with Logan Webb, they should actually be favored. And I'm assuming it's going to be the same thing as the Giants or pass. But this Dodgers team is really hard to bet against. So if you say pass, I don't think that's crazy at all. The wind will be blowing out in San Francisco, but with the way the wind swirls there, I'm not sure it matters too much. It'll be a chilly night, another pitcher-friendly. That's all I've got for you here today. Again, check us out on Dub Club if you haven't yet. All the A-grade picks, and because the play of the day is on fire, we've got promo code available for about 24 hours here. Heater 30 will get you 30% off the Honor Roll package. Thanks for watching. As always, best of luck, and remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.